Rain hammered the black umbrellas at Greenwood Cemetery as they lowered my husband into the ground. Alexander Morrison, tech billionaire philanthropist, the love of my life, gone at 42 from a sudden heart attack. His mother, Patricia Morrison, stood across from me in head-to-toe Chanel, dabbing at dry eyes. His brother Julian checked his phone throughout the service. His sister Vanessa whispered to her husband, shooting me calculating glances. They'd never accepted me, the former waitress who'd trapped their precious Alexander. Such a tragedy, Patricia said as mourners left. The board meeting is tomorrow at 10, don't be late. Board meeting. For Morrison Technologies, we'll discuss the transition of assets. She patted my arm condescendingly. Don't worry, dear, we'll handle everything. Something about her tone made my skin crawl. Alexander's lawyer, Thomas Bradford, met me the next morning. His expression was troubled. Elena, we need to talk. He pulled out a document. This is Alexander's will, the one filed with probate yesterday. Filed? I thought we had another week. Patricia filed it immediately. He slid it across the table. Read page 3. My hands shook as I read. I leave my wife Elena Morrison the sum of $2 million and the property at 431 Riverside Drive. The remainder of my estate shall be transferred to the Morrison Family Trust, managed by my mother Patricia Morrison and brother Julian Morrison. This isn't right, I whispered. This isn't what we signed. I know, because I have the original will right here, leaving everything to you. But this new will is dated 6 months ago and has Alexander's signature. That's impossible. Alexander was in Japan 6 months ago for 3 weeks. Exactly, Thomas said grimly. Elena, I think this will is fraudulent. 2 weeks later, sheriff's deputies appeared with an eviction notice. The penthouse belonged to the trust. I had 30 days to vacate. I called Thomas. They've frozen all of Alexander's accounts. Do you have access to any funds? I checked my bank account. $3,847, my own savings from before the marriage. Almost nothing, I whispered. I moved into our old apartment on Riverside Drive, the place we'd shared before the money. While packing Alexander's belongings, I found his laptop. I knew his password. In a folder labeled insurance, our code word were emails, hundreds of them. Alexander, we need to discuss your estate planning. Perhaps we should update your will, Patricia had written. Alexander's responses were dismissive. Mother, my will is fine. Elena is my wife, end of discussion. But Patricia persisted. Then 6 months ago, the documents are signed and filed. It's done. Alexander's reply, WHAT documents, I signed nothing, what have you done? They'd forged his signature, and somehow convinced him to stay quiet. I hired private investigator Nicole Carter. Within a week she had answers. There's a notary named Daniel Foster. He notarized the fraudulent will and works as a consultant for Morrison Technologies. He received $50,000 the same day he notarized the will from a shell company traced to Julian Morrison. Can we prove the connection? Better, I found hospital records showing Alexander was supposedly admitted to Mount Sinai the day the will was signed. But I have his calendar. He was in a video conference with Singapore investors at that exact time. The hospital admission signature matches the will signature exactly. Someone created false medical records. They forged everything, I breathed. And there's more. Nicole pulled up Facebook. Daniel Foster posted photos from Thailand the day he supposedly notarized the will in New York. Same day, timestamped. He was never in New York. This was it, proof of everything. I called Vanessa. I need to talk about Alexander, just coffee. She agreed, probably out of curiosity. At the cafe, I asked, why did Alexander change his will? He finally saw sense, she said coldly. He realized you were a gold digger. We simply reminded him where his loyalties should lie. By forging his signature. Her face went white. What? I'd been recording. How did Julian get Alexander's signature? Digital forgery, tracing. You have nothing, she hissed. You're nobody, Elena. Nobody beats the Morrison family. She left, but I had her admission on tape. At midnight my phone rang. Elena Morrison, my name is Christopher Lee. I was Alexander's assistant. I can help you. We met the next morning. I was with Alexander the day they supposedly signed that will. He was in back-to-back meetings. There's no way he could have met with a lawyer. He showed me Alexander's calendar, meeting minutes, time-stamped emails. At 2 p.m., when the will was supposedly notarized, Alexander was in a video conference. Why didn't you tell anyone? Patricia threatened me, said if I cooperated I'd keep my job if I caused trouble. He swallowed hard. But I can't sleep anymore. Alexander was a good man, I'll testify. Thomas filed the motion to void the will on Monday. By Tuesday they were threatening sanctions. By Wednesday Christopher was fired for performance issues. By Thursday the press ran, Gold Digger Widow contests billionaire's will. My character was assassinated across every news outlet. Former waitress, suspicious timing, opportunistic claims. Then Thomas called. We got a court date in 2 weeks. Judge Sandra Whitmore, tough but fair. Can we win? 50-50, but Patricia just filed a countersuit for defamation. She's asking for $10 million. I laughed bitterly. I don't have $10 million. Then we'd better win. Nicole called the night before the hearing. Foster's been posting photos from Thailand. Look at this one, dated the exact day he supposedly notarized the will. The newspaper in the background shows the date. He was in Thailand, not New York. That proves the notarization is fake. Yes, and Foster's in trouble, gambling debts over $200,000 to dangerous people. The Morrisons stopped paying him. Can we use that? I think we can buy his testimony. By morning Nicole had Foster on video call. He looked desperate. The Morrisons said I'd be protected, he said. They stopped answering my calls. Tell me everything, I said. Give me a deposition. In exchange I'll pay your debts and get you witness protection. You'll be safe. He was quiet then. Okay, I'll tell you everything. Foster's deposition was devastating. Julian had approached him, offered $50,000 to notarize a will without Alexander present. He'd backdate it, forge signatures, file it. Julian assured me Alexander would never know, Foster testified. After Alexander died, Julian told me to leave the country. When I needed help with debts, they blocked my number. They threw me away. The testimony included emails between Foster and Julian, bank transfers, text messages planning the fraud. It was ironclad. The courtroom was packed. Patricia, Julian and Vanessa sat with their lawyers. I sat with Thomas and Nicole. Judge Whitmore entered. This is a hearing to determine the validity of Alexander Morrison's will. Counsel for the plaintiff may begin. Thomas presented Christopher's calendar evidence, the emails showing Patricia's pressure, the Facebook photos of Foster in Thailand, and finally the video deposition. Watching Foster describe the conspiracy, seeing Julian's name on bank transfers, Patricia's face went from confident to panicked. The Morrison lawyers requested a recess. Denied, Judge Whitmore said coldly. Then Thomas called Patricia to the stand. Thomas destroyed Patricia in 20 minutes. You were aware of your son's original will, leaving everything to his wife. Yes. And you disapproved. I thought it was premature. So you forged a new will, Thomas pulled up the emails. Here you write, the documents are signed and filed, but Alexander never signed them. What documents were you referring to? Patricia stammered, I misspoke. Here's a bank transfer from your account to a shell company, $75,000, the same amount Foster was paid. Coincidence? That was for business. What business? The company had no operations. It existed solely to pay Foster. Patricia looked at her lawyers desperately. Julian took the fifth on every question. Vanessa tried to claim ignorance, but Thomas produced text messages between her and Julian discussing the Alina problem. By the time Thomas rested, the Morrison family was finished. Judge Whitmore didn't need long to deliberate. I've never seen fraud this brazen. The evidence is overwhelming that the will submitted to probate is fraudulent. Patricia stood, Your Honor. Sit down, I'm voiding the fraudulent will. I'm declaring the prior will, leaving everything to Alina Morrison, as valid. Furthermore, I'm ordering a criminal investigation into Patricia Morrison, Julian Morrison, and their accomplices. The courtroom erupted. I'm also awarding Mrs. Morrison compensatory damages for emotional distress and legal fees, not less than $5 million. She looked at Patricia. You tried to steal from a widow. You forged your dead son's signature. I hope the criminal courts show you the same mercy you showed Mrs. Morrison, none at all. She banged her gavel, adjourned. The story went viral. Morrison Technologies stock plummeted. The board forced Patricia and Julian to resign. Federal prosecutors arrested Julian within a week. Patricia hired the best lawyers, but the evidence was overwhelming. Vanessa cut a deal, testimony against her family for immunity. Foster returned to the US with witness protection. And me, I woke up to find 9 figures in my account. Alexander's fortune finally mine. Morrison Technologies was now controlled by me. The foundation Alexander had built was mine to restore. Everything he'd worked for was mine. My first act as majority shareholder was to clean house. Every executive loyal to Patricia was fired. Every complicit board member was replaced. I hired Christopher as my chief of staff. I hired Nicole as head of security. The company had suffered under Patricia's mismanagement, excessive executive compensation, sweetheart deals to friends. I cut the waste, refocused on innovation. Within 6 months, the stock price recovered. But I wasn't done. Patricia had turned Alexander's foundation into a slush fund for society parties and galas. I fired every administrator she'd hired. I brought in real educators who cared about Alexander's mission. Then I made my announcement. The Morrison Foundation will no longer fund society galas. We're tripling direct funding to schools and scholarship programs. The society pages were outraged. I didn't care. I commissioned a complete audit of Patricia's foundation spending. 300 pages of damning details, $2 million for galas where only $200,000 went to programs, $500,000 in consulting fees to Vanessa's husband, $1.5 million in personal purchases disguised as expenses. I released it publicly. The press had a field day. The IRS opened investigations. Patricia's society friends found themselves under scrutiny. Patricia's reputation, built over decades, collapsed in weeks. She'd cared so much about appearances, status, being seen as a philanthropist. I took all of it away. The criminal trial began 11 months after Alexander's death. I attended every day, sitting where Patricia could see me. The prosecution was devastating. Vanessa testified against her mother and brother, describing family meetings about the Elena problem, how to neutralize my inheritance. Julian said Elena was nobody, Vanessa testified, crying. He said nobody would believe a waitress over the Morrison family, that we could do whatever we wanted. Patricia's lawyers tried to paint her as a grieving mother misled by her son, but the evidence, emails, bank transfers, witness testimony, pointed to her as the mastermind. The jury deliberated 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Patricia Morrison was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for fraud, conspiracy, forgery and embezzlement. Julian got 15 years. Foster got 5 years probation for cooperation. I stood in the courtroom feeling nothing, no joy, no satisfaction. Alexander was still gone. Outside, reporters swarmed me. Mrs. Morrison, how do you feel? I looked into the cameras. Alexander Morrison wanted to change the world. His family tried to erase his legacy and steal his life's work. Today, the courts confirmed that their greed and cruelty would not go unpunished. Now I'm going to do what Alexander always wanted, build something that matters. 3 years after Alexander's death, a woman named Margaret Foster came to my office. I'm Daniel Foster's sister. He died last month. Before he died, he wanted you to have this. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter and photographs. Dear Mrs. Morrison, asterisk. I'm dying and I need to clear my conscience. Your husband knew about the forged will. He found out 2 weeks before he died. He confronted me and I confessed everything. He was going to expose them, but he gave his family 24 hours to confess and make it right. He called his mother and told her he knew. He died the next morning. The doctors said heart attack, but I saw the autopsy photos. There were signs consistent with digitalis poisoning. It mimics heart attack symptoms perfectly. Patricia Morrison is a registered nurse. She would have known how. The photos are security camera stills from Alexander's building, showing Patricia entering his apartment the morning he died. She told police she wasn't there that day. I hope you can finish what Alexander started. Daniel Foster *. My hands shook. The photos showed Patricia clear as day. Entering Alexander's building at 6:47 a.m. the morning he died. She'd lied about being there. She'd murdered him. I gave everything to Thomas: the letter, the photos, medical records. This is substantial but circumstantial, he said. Alexander was cremated, we can't prove poisoning now. But the photos prove she lied. Yes, that we can use. The FBI reopened Alexander's case. The news broke. New evidence suggests billionaire may have been murdered. The investigation revealed Patricia had purchased Digitalis online 2 weeks before Alexander died, under a fake name, shipped to a PO box. Not proof of murder, but proof of intent. The prosecutor offered a deal: admit to voluntary manslaughter, 20 years concurrent with her fraud sentence. Patricia refused, maintained her innocence. The case went to trial. The jury deadlocked. 6 believed she'd killed him, 6 thought the evidence was too weak. Mistrial. The prosecutor decided not to retry. We gave it our best shot. Sometimes that's all you can do. 5 years after Alexander's death, I stood in front of Morrison Tower, the new foundation headquarters I'd built, 20 stories housing programs that would change thousands of lives. Inside, scholarship recipients from neighborhoods like mine worked on their dreams, given chances they'd never have otherwise. This was Alexander's dream made real: my revenge, my tribute, my redemption. Patricia died in prison 3 months ago. Cancer. She never admitted to killing Alexander, never apologized, never showed remorse. I didn't attend her funeral. Julian got out on parole last year. He works in a warehouse, lives in a studio, will pay restitution forever. He wrote asking for a job. I threw the letter away. Vanessa moved to California, changed her name, started over. As for me, I sold the penthouse, too many ghosts. I bought a brownstone in Brooklyn, closer to the foundation, closer to the work. I started dating again, nothing serious, but it's nice to feel human. I think about Alexander every day, about how he loved me enough to leave me everything, about how he died trying to protect me. I never got absolute proof Patricia murdered him, but in my heart I know she did. She killed her own son rather than face exposure. And my revenge, I took everything she valued: wealth, status, freedom, reputation, her family's legacy. I turned Alexander's company into something better than she ever imagined. I turned his foundation into a force for real change. I proved that the waitress they dismissed, the nobody they tried to destroy, was stronger and more ruthless than they ever anticipated. They tried to steal my husband's fortune. Instead, I took everything from them, and I built an empire on the ashes of their greed. Standing in front of Morrison Tower, looking up at the building bearing my husband's name, I finally felt something I hadn't felt in 5 years. Peace. Not happiness, not closure, but peace. Alexander would have been proud. And that, in the end, was the only revenge that mattered.